In the next few weeks, the U.S. Supreme Court will issue a major decision on the ability of the Environmental Protection Agency to set strict limits on greenhouse gas emissions from coal-fired power plants. It will impact the fight against climate change and efforts to protect communities already feeling the effects. Tonight, we're in the heart of coal country, West Virginia, for a closer look at the states with rare access inside one of the largest coal-fired power plants in the country. Here's Devin Dwyer.
The water was over the face of the clock and over the top of the cars.
In Clendenin, West Virginia, scars of a 1,000-year flood are still visible on Main Street.
This was steps to a building that was like a restaurant before.
In 2016, torrential rains from a passing storm inundated the Elk River Basin, killing 23 people and causing more than $1 billion in damage.
We have a lot of less fortunate people in our area, so that even made it worse.
The storm that hit was exceptional and rare, but scientists say the threat from severe floods fueled by climate change is rising across West Virginia, compounded by its unique landscape and mining for coal.
Mountaintop removal to get easy access to coal has created vulnerabilities for these valley communities. Water rushes off these hillsides into the streams.
West Virginia has had more flooding disasters over the last 70 years than any other state except California and Texas. Storms have been more frequent and more powerful, dumping 55% more rain.
I have never seen flooding like I've seen here in the past 20 years.
Maria Gano, whose family has lived in and mined in these mountains for generations, blames greenhouse gases from burning fossil fuels, including coal.
We can't continue to risk everything for energy. You know, I mean, coal keeps the lights on, they say, but at what cost?
As climate costs mount, West Virginia's political leaders and energy companies are fighting to defend coal at the U.S. Supreme Court, which will decide this spring how far the federal government can go in regulating greenhouse gas emissions from coal-fired power plants.
It has incredible potential to affect how EPA and other agencies write regulations for years to come.
This is one of the largest coal-fired power plants in the country, John Amos right here. These are the 50 acres of Appalachian coal that's taken by these conveyor belts from barges and rail into the power plant facility just down the way.
It's one of 174 coal-fired plants nationwide that will be impacted by the court's decision. It burns up to 27,000 tons of coal a day, powering more than 2 million homes and businesses across 3 states.
This is where the coal is actually burned, ignited through these burners into the boilers, creating 3,000-degree heat, sending ash and greenhouse gases through the pipes.
Last year, it released 10.8 million tons of CO2, or the equivalent of more than 2 million cars driven for a year. The plant has been emitting earth-warming gases since the early 1970s.
EPA regulations forced coal-fired power plants to install what are called scrubbers. These contraptions at the bottoms of the stacks to remove sulfur dioxide from the exhaust. What they don't remove is carbon dioxide.
As the EPA prepares to issue new limits on carbon dioxide, power plant officials and allies like Clendenin Mayor Kay Summers worry it could lead to fewer jobs and higher electricity prices.
They want to make rules, but they don't understand because they don't walk in those shoes.
So how much has coal been a part of your life and your family?
Oh, it's pretty much everybody's, West Virginia period, it's pretty much in everybody's life.
Ricky Brookover, a union boilermaker who works overnight at John Amos, welcomes the state's plan to keep burning coal there until 2040.
I think we need coal until we have until they figure out an alternate source.
Do people feel like the climate is changing because of the gases coming out of the plant?
No, I don't think in this area people really do.
When they hear EPA, what do they think?
They probably cringe at it.
Cringe?
Right.
West Virginia generates about 90% of its electricity from coal-fired power plants. While many states in the country have begun pivoting quickly away from coal, this state is digging in.
While the EPA does have a narrow array of authority to act in the area of carbon emissions, it's nowhere near what the Biden administration is suggesting.
West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrisey is leading the group of 18 states suing the EPA over its power to regulate greenhouse gases.
Why fight the EPA when they're fighting to protect West Virginia from some of the most harmful impacts of climate change? I mean, isn't that what they're trying to do?
Our people want to have clean air. They want to have clean water. Absolutely. But you have to go through the process the right way. To allow unelected bureaucrats to just decide it under the guise of good government, that's not right. This is Congress's decision to make, not the EPA.
But you look at the Clean Air Act, and Congress pretty explicitly there asked for the EPA to do some regulatory work.
Well, the authority wasn't delegated to the EPA to run and completely reorder the state's electricity systems.
The EPA says Clean Air Act authority is critical to cutting U.S. carbon emissions in half by 2030. If West Virginia succeeds in limiting that authority, that goal could be impossible to meet.
Why is that authority so important?
Because it protects human health and the environment. If they can't respond to new and emerging threats, then Congress would have to pass a law every time something new comes along.
While the legal fight plays out, energy companies have slowly been transitioning to cheaper alternatives to coal. It's still the largest single source of greenhouse gas emissions worldwide, but plays a smaller and smaller role in powering America.
I grew up in coal country. I come from a community where we're seeing massive job losses, massive job losses.
So can solar and coal coexist here?
Coal and solar have to coexist here.
In the shadow of the John Amos power plant, Keena Mullins runs West Virginia's largest commercial solar installation. She's not opposed to coal or the EPA, but says solar needs to be part of the state's future.
You're not trying to replace coal, you're trying to get a seat at the table with a market that's evolving.
Absolutely. Just like in your household, you would not want to put all your eggs in one basket. It's just diversifying our energy portfolio.
Do you feel like coal is dying here?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Coal may be dying, but many here aren't ready to let it go. And as the state wages war on the EPA, environmental advocates are braced for the worst.
What's the impact going to be here?
The impact here is going to be increased mining, increased pollution. The coal industry has always kept our people in the dark, and I don't look for it to change.
And in Clendenin, they're still rebuilding and still skeptical of an EPA trying to protect them from the worst of climate change.
How concerned are you about this happening again?
I'll be honest with you, every time it rains and storms, I'm lying awake at night. But I know it can happen, but I just don't think it will happen again.
Yes, it was a 1,000-year flood, but the warmer we get, the more intense.
Is it warm right now? And what's the date?
It's cold.
That's right.
It's cold right now.
It's weather all over. You know what? I'm not a scientist, and I just don't believe it.
Can coal and solar coexist? Something you're going to be hearing a lot about in the coming days. Our thanks to Devin for bringing us that.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.